up, guys? It's boy James, aka Triple J75, aka DC's Batman Rages, and today we're going to waste no more time because I have a lot to show you in my biggest RCT2 project ever, Triple J Paradise Island. Here's the park in all its glory. As you can see, it's a massive park. I always wanted to make a big seaside amusement park, which technically I do have with Triple J Ocean Resort, but that's an ocean on one side. I want an ocean on 3 sides. Kind of like how Sear Point is, except that's a lake, a Great Lake, Lake Erie, but it's sort of the same idea. It's like the Triple J Sear Point, whereas Triple J World is like Kings Island. I first started this project in 2020 in... Wait, hold on. The block game? Oh yeah, in 2020, when I was moving to university because of the supervise, I had to quarantine at a hotel called the Study at Yale, where I made this block game world, where the goal was to eventually, using the resources available in that game, build the amusement park. But 2 years later, when I realized how evil Mojang is and decided to boycott all future games of theirs, I transferred the map to this game, using 3 blocks in the block game to 1 RCT2 tile. And that's how I got the map of this. It wasn't auto-generated by the game, it was made by the block game. Alright, so, even with 2 parts, there's going to be a lot to show you, so let's get started. Here's the beginning, well, front of the park. You say, I made this in around September of 2024. So, go in here, and there are lots of little buildings around here. The front of this park is inspired by a Redditor I saw who made his own version of Six Flags Magic Mountain, and he wanted to follow a progression as if it was real time, but he stopped a couple decades in, and I was left on a cliffhanger. But lots of things here are inspired by that, and I don't hear any music, so great. I just wanted to make the music as quiet as possible while still hearing it. Yes, this uses fairground organ style too. You get on the monorail over here, and there are lots of classic rides, like Ferris wheel, talk about merry-go-round, a scrambler over here, what do I call it? Tornado, tilt-a-whirl, classic log flume, we'll get to a roller coaster soon, a lovely car ride called Sunday Driver. I think that was a typo that I just rolled with. And you might hear some piano music. That's ragtime style too, at what's one of my favorite roller coasters that I ever built of all time. It's like in the top 10. This is called Scenic Railroad. When I was building this, I was getting ready for my second trip to Kennywood. So I thought to celebrate that, I'll make one that's inspired by Jack Rabbit. Let's follow the train here. It, isn't the first coaster I built for this park. I thought about like starting it in like 1910, but then I got bored and just decided to build the coasters that would exist today. And some of the rides are over here. Now it's a parking lot for what's going to be the hotel. There are still a couple of holes that I need to fill in here and there. There are also lots of paths in the middle of the infield for 2 reasons. 1, so you can get good on-ride video if you're a real-life guest here, and 2, because this park has a lot of issues with guests getting lost. I guess it was inevitable. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how to explain in words. It's beautiful. It even has that double down inspired by Jack Rabbit and Kennywood, followed by a double up. And there's a little bit of Wild West style theming in here, like a stagecoach. I really like it. I like the structure, I like the layout, I like the queue line, I like everything. Next to it, there's a double tram ride, also from that custom Six Flags Magic Mountain scenario that the Redditor did. I'll have their name on screen. And I also made my own version of something they built called the Derby Racer. I tried to think of my own original name, but I couldn't think of one, so Derby Racer is kind of a placeholder but for being a placeholder name, I do like it, and I really like this coaster. It's classic, it's so much fun, it's a very long ride, and it serves as a good border between Old Park, which is what this is called, and the rest of the park. It looks like it would be in the 70s, and I imagine it would be very nostalgic for some of the older folks out there. I wish I could make the rest of the park look like this. I wouldn't have minded, but gotta keep moving forward. matching with the times, of course. And here's the Schwarzkopf triple loop. I also had one of these built at one of my other parks called King's Domination, but I decided to make it more accurate with the actual layout of something like Mindbender at Galaxyland or All-American Triple Loop at Indiana Beach. And this is what I came up with. As you can see, there's a brief moment of interaction with another tram, which I think is pretty cool, and I was barely able to fit the tram underneath. What did I call the tram ride? Old Town Tram. Pretty good. And over here are the four most classic Roller Coaster Tycoon shops. Cotton candy, soda, burger, and fruity ices. There's also a boardwalk here, and how I imagine it work is like at Cedar Point, you don't need to pay for admission to go on this boardwalk. I had opened it for a little bit, but guess just keep getting lost. Oh, Park of the best roller coasters. Thank you. And there's one more coaster at Old Park, a Aero Hyper called the Gigantic. I don't usually make this kind of coaster, but I did this time to match Cedar Point, I guess. Now, Gigantic is sort of like a regular name, I guess. It's not too inspired, but it's at the front of the park, Old Park, so it's totally fine. Coasters could be named after their adjective, like triple thrill, like 3 loops. Hey, that's almost my name. And yeah, this is a lovely Aero Hyper coaster with big hills. This bend right here was provided by Open RCT2. And this coaster was very useful in filling up this space over the road right here, which leads to another on-site hotel. And as you can tell, this path right here used to be 3 wide, but I made it 2 wide. Instead, I might move the fence eventually, but yeah, the coaster takes up a lot of the empty space right here. Very nicely done. And there's a really good observation tower over here. There's also a quadruple drop tower called the Tower of Horror, of course. And you can use this bridge right here to get to a alternate entrance to the park. This is actually how I entered the park, I think, in my block game world. And eventually, this is going to be like a Comfort Inn style hotel. Nothing too expensive. And over here, I'm going to build a more expensive one. I mean, you can't make hotels in this game that are functional, but it's just for decoration, I guess. And let's go to the next segment of the park, the Pirates Cove. There's a lot to see here. This is the first coaster at this park with inversions. 7 Seas Storm. It brings you upside down a lot, which I imagine would be similar to the chaos that would happen if you're on a pirate ship in a storm. I wanted to make it a mega looper, which would be 7 inversions, but I couldn't figure out how to do that without making it too intense, so it's 6 instead. And this is a pay-for-the-rides park, which the advantage of is that if the ride is 25 years old in the game, you can charge one price for it forever because it reached landmark status. And that's how I got all this money right here. Oh yeah, and I also put RCT3 music right here. Pirates Dreads. Did I add any to right here? There's Dodge and Beat style, but that doesn't really count. Another entrance to the park here, as well as a chairlift ride that can bring you over here, which isn't actually technically part of park property, but that's good because anyone can go on it, so you can take a look at the view here. But there's also this really good shoot-the-shoots ride called Pirates Plunge. I imagine the guests on that bridge there would be super wet. And yes, this is supposed to be a passion project park of mine. So basically, I try to make sure that every tile has its purpose, whether it's path or a food shop or decoration. I want there to be no empty space, so there's always something going on. And to an extent, that's my philosophy in every park. So there's lots of rock work over here. A little bit of a long journey to get back to the station, but at least make it somewhat entertaining. And next to it, there's a Intamin Megalight. Not a mega coaster, but mega light. It's only 114 feet, but it has a 9.10 excitement rate. And it's easy to see why once we go down the lift hill here. I made it that short because that's sort of all we need to do to make this coaster entertaining. A nice turn well, whatever you call it, not helix, but spiral over here. Followed by a really cool twister segment over here, and I made some custom supports over there. And it loses a little bit of pacing over here, but still, the guests love it. This had enormous lines when it first opened. Very proud of this creation. Eventually, over here, this is empty because I want to put in a jungle-themed water park. This park will have 2 water parks here, and a cave-themed amusement park right here. That was always in the plans since 2020, 5 years ago. The idea of this park is almost 5 years old, wow. And here's an enormous RMC single rail coaster, which they also call the Raptor model. I decided to call it Sword Fight to match like how pirates fought each other with swords, but also the really cool moments of interaction with the other train. Look at this. Isn't that awesome? And there's another really cool one here with this corkscrew. So the trains separate first, and then, if the timing is right, yes! Look at that! It's so incredible, and it has so many elements. I absolutely love it. Maybe, like Matsuku 84 did with Extreme Heights, I might make a video which is just the coasters of this park going, and you can watch along. I've been meaning to do that with Triple J World too. Maybe I should get to that someday. And of course, since not too many guests could fit on one train, I had to be really good with the capacity. There's a block break right over here. Longest train possible, 12 cars. I made the lift hill as fast as possible, and lots of block stones here. There. Very nicely done. And I guess Minetown is the next one over here. I decided to make it a town-themed area because in the block game world, there's a village here as well as here. We'll get to this area in part 2. It's a fascinating area over here. This is an inverted coaster called Gold Rush. I guess that would be more appropriate for a mine train coaster, but whatever. I don't really care. And it's unintentionally shaped like Raptor at 0 point. So there's a drop, a loop, and a Zoji roll. Pretty nicely done. And of course a Cobra roll right here, followed by a few other elements next to these Wild Western style buildings where you can stop by and get something to eat. Ooh, the chicken nugget stall kind of looks like a pot of gold. How about that? Wild West style, of course. Here's a dive coaster named Cliff Diver. Generic name, I guess, but it's a pretty good dive coaster with lots of people going on. And here is my... Ooh. This is called Rival Railroads, and it's inspired by a 3-part series on OpenTTD that I saw a long time ago by Jay Schlatt. It's called Rival Railroads because there are 2 railroads racing to get deliveries brought to Minetown. One of these is called Schlatt & Co. and the other is Fleffenbridge Transport 1. And I do a really good job of separating the tracks, of course, but then they meet up absolutely perfectly. First attempt. And then there's this underground segment over here with very tight turns. This is such a good mine train coaster. Like, if I made a list of my favorite of each coaster model in this game, like, a third of them would be at this park. It's such a nice mine train coaster. And right over here, I don't see any carts going. Oh, never mind. It's because I couldn't see them. Minecart Expedition. This is inspired by a Nancy Drew game by Her Interactive called Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, where, at the end, you have to catch the culprit by going on a minecart through a mine system, which I imagine would be somewhere in Colorado. Ever since I was a kid, I thought that was super fun, so I wanted to bring that to life here. But it is kind of awkwardly placed. It's closer to Pirates Cove than Minetown, and the entrance is sort of weird, and it's not really very pretty, so it might be the first one to go, but still, I really like it. And I'll definitely bring this concept back at some other park if this were to be removed. And I use the minecarts provided by Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 Time Twister, I think, because Wacky Worlds gave you stagecoaches, but didn't use stagecoaches. Pretty sure it's from Time Twister. And right next to it is the kids area. Appropriately next to Minecart Expedition is a mini mine train called Flying Chicken Strips! It's sort of inspired by Fiesta Express at Fun for All Family Entertainment Center, but of course it looks a lot more thrilling and beautiful than that. No offense to Fun for All. But this kids area could constitute as a small amusement park itself. There's a lot to do here. I use the tarmac path because that's what you use mostly in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1. I wanted to bring Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 vibes to some of this park. There's a lovely helicopter ride over here. A Zamperla Family Gravity Coaster, which I used to call Scrambled Egg, but it was actually Jay of Insane Coaster Junkie, my good friend, who gave me the idea to call it Galloping Sausage. Yeah, I know, it's a little bit crazy of a name. Best custom design rides. Well, that name didn't prevent me from getting that award. Yeah, 6 cars long, just like the real Zamperla Family Gravity Coaster, which you can find at many parks around the country. There's another monorail station over here, themed after the mines, of course, even though this is really the kiddie section park. This is a tiny coaster inspired by that tiny coaster that SpongeBob and Patrick went on. Junior Gigantic. Because it's somewhat close to the regular Gigantic. It is so freaking tiny. But that's good. That's what I was supposed to do. And there's some more coasters around here too. This is one of the few times I use the classic mini steel coaster. This one, you know this one, right? And made it a launch coaster. I didn't think of a name until I painted the cars right here and thought, you know what? Let's call it Rainbow Dash. And I think this would be immediately make it a destination coaster for kids and coaster enthusiasts alike. I mean, look at it. You can't complain about Rainbow Dash, can you? No. It's so cute. There's also a bigger coaster over here. Oh, there's no... there are 2 people in the back. Coaster enthusiasts right in there. Bird's Nest right here. Ooh, a wooden coaster next to it. And yes, this is part of the kids area called Timber Derby. Really like the name, and I really like the paint scheme, and I really like the layout. For being in the kids area, it's like 8.15 excitement. Really fun. Derek described this as like a mini Mystic Timbers at Kings Island, which is a great way of describing it. Ooh, another wooden coaster over there. That's intriguing, but we have to stay focused. This is one of the few times I used the airplane-style cars on mini suspended coaster. I wanted to make something like Silver Streak at Canada's Wonderland, but better. Hence, Overboard was open. It was built and open. Very pretty. Basically, I just want to make this park look pretty all throughout. Still need to fill in this space over here, but this, as you can tell by the trains, is supposed to be an intimate prefab wooden coaster. Let me tell you, if you can think of it, chances are Paradise Island has had it at some point. Sheriff's Run. I thought of that when trying to think of Wild Western style names for a wooden coaster. I asked ChatGPT for some ideas. It gave me some ideas, but I combined some of ideas that it had and brought it here. I thought of Sheriff's Run on my own after doing that. And it's a pretty good one. And next to it is Sundown Express with just 1 inversion. If 3 on a short scoff is a little too much for you. Pretty good station 2. And there's another scrambler I call Tumbleweed. And there's a train ride here too. Triple J Railroad and Co, of course. This is an important coaster because it's the highest capacity coaster I've ever made. This is called Danger Canyon. And I tried to model it after mesas and canyons in like New Mexico or Arizona in the United States. And it's a B&M sit-down. I made this here because I don't usually make B&M sit-down coasters, so I wanted to give it a chance by building it at the biggest amusement park I've ever made, of course. And it has many inversions and good fun. People want to line up for it. Now for the elephant in the room. This is a huge wooden coaster. Wow, you can already tell how fast it's going by the sound it's making. That I always wanted to make ever since I watched a series by the YouTuber Beijing Canadian, who played a lot of block game Hunger Games. In 2012, I think, he played Electric Field in this game, and as a kid, that was like the peak of entertainment, and he built a huge wooden coaster called the Messiah. And I loved it as a kid. I thought it was fascinating. I recently rewatched that 7-part series, but of course, since then standards improve, and I realized a lots of improvements can be made to the Messiah. So I made a huge Din Corporation wooden coaster called the Messiah, the king of wooden coasters, of course. Wow, it took so long, even with higher speed. I mean, look how big the pre-drop is. Let's take a look here. It was really hard to get the intensity rating under 10. There are lots of trim breaks, not to make fun of Din Corporation, but because I had to keep the intensity low. And speaking of Din Corporation, this does look like it would be like a Mean Streak but better. And I made this to model it after the Messiah that Beijing Canadian made. I call that the toilet bowl element. Another hole over here, followed by some additional turns. And then you get to the big course break run, and then go underneath the structure a little bit. And this looks like a big queue-line building, but it was full at times. Really good station, too. This is a pretty good one. Nothing too complex, but it's more than just a rectangle. It gets the job done. And a lovely food court over here. And some hills here. 3D scenery. I'm glad I didn't just put trees there and call it a day. And to finish up part 1, you might have seen that there's this area that's closed. This is called Triple J Mini Pier. How I imagine it work is that this park right here is you want to spend like 2 days here. But let's say you fly into the island and you have an afternoon to spare and you don't want to go into the main park because there's just too much to do here. Well, you can go here to Triple J Mini Pier and pay per ride. That's how I imagine it would work. Now, why is it closed? Because I tried to integrate with this park, but guests kept getting lost. I had to make some secret underground paths here for easy transport. However, I do have a file where it is working. Let me show you. And what I did with this file is make this the main amusement park and get rid of the rides here. This is back when it wasn't fully completed, and you can see like the support skeletons of all the rides. Even here, there's enough to do here to sustain 3,000 guests. And right here, this is Boardwalk of Terror. This is the oldest coaster at this segment of the park, at 122 years old in game, of course. What I like about this is that, okay, so you know how with Boardwalk wooden coasters, when you're in the first half of the ride, you usually go over other tracks, and then once you lose speed and the hills are smaller, you go underneath tracks. Well, this coaster does things a little different. As you can see, when it turns around, it goes into the support structure of it, and you're going really fast, and I imagine that would be really fun and intense. As timing of 8.94, pretty good. And also, 3248 feet, that's the exact same to the foot as this coaster, which we'll get to soon. This right here is called Scrambler because it has the spinning Mauer rides cars. It's kind of like Steel Dragon, not 2000 at Waldemere Park. And of course, there's a sea wall here, so that way, if it's high tide, it won't get into the park. Ocean City has that too. I should know, I live near it. And lots of Boardwalk style rides here as well. And of course, the Boardwalk Neighborhood Trolley. I made that back when I saw a video by my friend Dries called Jay's Neighborhood, which I died of laughter when it got to me in the video.
Welcome to the neighborhood of
Jay.
Our first stop is
The Ensers of the Galaxy, the Spinvasion.
and look
James.
out to meet us.
Yo, how's it going, guys? It's the boy James, aka Triple J75 here, and today we gonna do something a little different today. Today, we're going to be taking our first look at Six Flags Darien Lake.
A drop of horror. Nice. A really good Wild Mouse coaster right here, custom built, very nicely done, as well as an Aero launch loop coaster. If you get the time right, you could go around the loop at the same time Seagull Raid is going through. This is probably my favorite coaster at the park. Why? It's not that fascinating, yes, but it's like old-fashioned and vintage, and sometimes less is more, and I like it. And that's all that matters. You can also see this in another scenario in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1. Oh. Yes! I'll consider that good. And pretty good station for the kind of ride it is. It's called Riptide. And that leaves Seagull Raid, I believe. Yeah, this is a mock rides LSM coaster, like Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. And Mock Rides is infamous for having launches that aren't really launches, which I tried to demonstrate here. Okay, so it's going at 39 miles per hour, right? It went up to 50. But still, it's a pretty good ride, and I like it. It's the newest one at this park. And unfortunately, there's no more room for expansion, it looks like. Someday, I'll get a really good beach map and just make a boardwalk style park all over. I mean, I guess that's Triple J Ocean Resort, but that's more like a regular theme park. Like, what if Jolly Roger on the pier was the size of a city? That's what I want to make.